I'm going to start by talking a little bit about real food, and to me there's no better place to start that discussion, same way I started in the book, by going to Parma in Italy, which is to me the sort of epicenter of great food production, especially Parmigiano Reggiano, the king of cheese, which, as you can see, I chose for a wedge of that to be on the cover of the book. And when I went to Parma, I've been to Parma several times, but you go there and you see how these foods, and it's not just the cheese, that's where they make prosciutto di Parma, and a lot of the good balsamic vinegar comes from Modena next door, and Barilla, the biggest pasta maker, is there, and Parmalat, the biggest Italian agricultural product company of all, is there. It's a huge food town, and it's a great food town. It's off the radar for a lot of American tourists, but it's worth going to. And if you do go, you can tour any number of these. There's about 300 dairies that make Parmigiano Reggiano. They all make it exactly the same way as they have for between 800 and 1,000 years, so it doesn't really matter which one you go to. They're not innovating or cutting corners or teching it up. In Parma, the cattle graze openly, and they graze on grass and wildflowers that are kept as intact as possible over time. They're not allowed to be replanted with new crops. They're not allowed to be fertilized. They're not allowed to use pesticides. The cattle themselves, they're not allowed to give them hormones or steroids or antibiotics, all of which are unfortunately pretty much the norm in cattle here. And the result is an ultra-pure milk that's totally drug-free. And by law, the production of cheese in Parma has to begin within 2 hours of the cow being milked. So we're not talking about trucking this milk all around. Farmer milks the cows, typically takes it to his next door neighbor who makes the cheese. The process starts. It's super regulated. The only 3 ingredients you'll ever find in real Parmesan cheese are milk, which again is as pure milk as you can get, rennet, which is the natural enzyme that makes cheese form curds, and salt. And those are the only ingredients allowed by law in this cheese that has been made the same way for almost 1,000 years. So the result, and it's made in only one size, there's not a lot of creativity when it comes to making this cheese, but it's really, really good. And it's one of the only foods in the world that is every single piece of cheese made is tested before it's sold to the consumers. So there are inspectors who go around and they bang on and listen to and taste, if necessary, every single wheel of cheese that's made, and about 8% of that cheese is rejected in its finished form for not meeting the high standards of Parmigiano Reggiano. So long story short, you buy a wedge of Parmigiano Reggiano, you know exactly what you're getting in terms of both quality and taste. It's never bad. It's the only time you ever get cheese that's bad is if it's been poorly stored, it's too old when you buy it. The vendor mistake, not the manufacturers. So that to me is an example of a delicious, real food that is really worth seeking out.